Boom! And we're live from the hole in the ground. So today I wanted to kind of think about I was listening to an audiobook chapter out of Gurdjieff's book what is it? Beelzebub's Tales. And chapter 30 he talks about art and the way that knowledge and wisdom is passed down. And I have this obsession with art and music and things, but as he states, most art now is just aesthetic regurgitation and just like art for the sake of art. While the ancient method, like if you look in Rome, for example, they had, you know, mosaics as like streets and like art was highly symbolic of like it's a way of passing wisdom down that cannot be done through like books. Well, it can be, but it's uh, more full from an art perspective. And I really think the modern world would benefit from switching to that kind of mindset where art isn't just like aesthetic regurgitation of just like I'm gonna paint whatever comes out of my hands, but painting things with symbolism integrated into it. And because that's the way that you get deep wisdom into the everyman. Most people don't go to libraries and read books and like digest things like that, but everybody knows what the Vatican is and like we'll see like art museums. And I think the world could do with a lot of thoughtful art and like integrated thinking. Like when I was really young, there's this park by the ocean, Pacific Rim Park, and like I was part of putting that mosaic together when I was like 5 or something like that. And it's just a place now. It's just a little place where people go and like hang out in the bay, look over the water, and it's really cool. And one of the things Gurdjieff spoke about in this chapter was connect. There we go. The way days were like so like we have Sunday, the Lord's Day. People rest and go to church and reflect on God. At least that's like kind of the design. But if you apply that to every other day of the week, you could really create a more fulfilled and regimented society. Because obviously, not everybody's going to follow that. But like, if you have like the way the world is set up now is like you go to your job and that's you do that 5 days a week. But there is coming a time soon with AI and the shift of humanity where it's going to be much different. And I think there will be a lot more free time. I mean, based on now, we have a lot more free time. People just work to earn more money to do less, which doesn't really make sense. Like if you have a purposeful life and you work to live instead of living to work, you can get a lot more actual productivity done instead of just like shuffling papers around and fucking God only knows how much actual productivity is wasted because like we got this thing set up for fucking like an ant farm, you know. And like I really think so. Saturday is Sabbath for the Jews, Sunday is for Christians, and then Monday would be great for Islam because that's represents the moon. And like if there was a way to set it up so it's like naturally a 3 day off, 4 days at work, and for those 4 days that you are working, it's kind of segmented in different things. Like if we were instead of like the corporate factory world, it would be like on Tuesday, like you gather all your uh like that's like your farming day, and like you're at home and you tend into your garden and you connect with the earth on that day. And then the next day you are like we'll just say like creating for the sake of creation, like painting, doing like DIY stuff, working on your car, uh like something like that. And then the next day would be like you focus on your finances and like your paperwork in relation to the rest of the world. And then the next day is Friday would be uh Thursday would be this is just off the cuff example. uh so wait, that it would be Friday, so gardening stuff, DIY/art, paperwork, bills, and uh reading. And then like uh the next day, Friday, would be like social interaction, party, congregation, politics, reflection. And then you have Saturday would be Shabbat for one group. This is just an example, so like it's not going to cleanly work out. But like there's a religious day, and then the rest of the other groups have like I don't know how to put it, but a way to separate out the week into, instead of just like every day is the same and you get stuck in like a hell loop where you have like work for 5 days and then 2 you're just half dead. You don't even actually get like your day of rest really. Like you still have to do everything else that you couldn't do during the week, because I think that's the way a lot of people live. Well, yeah, there's got to be a day for like your children and freaking like, you know, take your kids to play soccer or whatever and things like that. And yeah, um, the way that relates to art is like the way um, the way you want to have. Man, I totally lost my train of thought because somebody joined the chat and I was like, somebody's watching. Oh God. Um, the art of like integrating higher truths that come down in like contemplation, understanding, and finding a way to integrate that into the world. And like there's a lot of symbology in things that are like secular and not necessarily like offensive to one group or another. And even so, when people start getting annoyed and stuff like that, it's so lame. It's so lame. Everything's true, basically. When you get down to like an art symbolic level, everything is true, and there's no need to like blast other people. You're just being stuck in your unconscious low level being state. And that's actually another part of this chapter that chapter 30 of Beelzebub's Tales is he's talking about how uh, like unconscious people would get like angry and violent at people that are trying to pass down like this mythological understanding of the world and like think they're a spy or whatever, or like un-American is how we think about it here, and like they just like kill them and get rid of them when it's like a vital piece of like holding together the human script. And I think one of the hardest things we're dealing with now is like the complete like obliteration of like any like continuity through time. It's kind of like turned into a free for all shit show where it just like Jackson Pollock chuck painted a piece of canvas and it's like it's art, dude. It's freaking modern art. It's like no, it's just garbage. It's really what it is. And a lot of that like avant-garde thinking is just people that have gone insane trying to create something new, trying to be unique, and they just create dog shit, you know? I forget who said this, but there's some filmmaker that like said the best filmmakers steal from other filmmakers. And it makes sense because like there's only so many ways you can like shoot a scene. Like there's only so many like camera angles and like lighting effects, but like each time you do it, it still comes out different just by the nature of like reality. Like it's still the same angle and like perspective of like a person moving across like the scene, but it's comes out different every single time because the sun angle is different. The location is going to be different. There's going to be different cars, different aura of the space, all of that. And like that's why art is so fucked up is because people are so focused on trying to be unique, not realizing that like there's only so many combinations of what you're trying to do. And if you just follow a script for like the baseline, you're still going to get to something unique. But like if you build upon the way something was done before, like it's not just going to be chaotic, like mindless, like incoherent mess. And the same goes for music. Like when you break music down, it's literally just 7 notes. And like there's the different octaves and like rhythmic patterning, but it's just the same 7 notes. Oof. And that's one thing that's forgotten in like the way of creation is like you have to work with you have a like a color palette. Like there's only 7 base colors of light, anyways. I don't know how it works with like actual paint. It might be like the 3 primary colors. I forget, but like you're not going to get anything totally new by doing something completely new, like, because that's not possible. Like, there's four elements on Earth, earth, air, wind, and fire. And, like, well, I guess you can count spirit, the luminiferous ether, but you have to work with, like, your basic components. You're not actually creating something new. You're doing alchemy. Like, you're taking, like, the base palette and intermixing and combining it and reaching something that appears uh, like totally um, appears totally novel or unique. And, like, if, for example, like, city governments actually, in, like, they do here in California, they're pretty good about it. Like, they'll have, like, you can paint murals on, like, bridges, or, like, another ones they've been doing, like, electrical boxes. They're like green junction boxes. People can, like, paint that, and that comes out nice. What I think would be really cool is to, like, even, like, mosaics in the sidewalks, or, like, adding, like, um, very simple touches to places, add an incredible amount of character. That's, like, it's what creates the spirit of place for a city, and, like, is how you take a it's how you create, like, an aura of a culture, like a new thing from what's just, like, it's the same everywhere. There's sidewalks and roads and street lights and all that's going to be there no matter what, but you can add, like, a alchemical twist that brings something totally new and, like, full of life to it. Like, I think Texas is one of the worst with this kind of, they don't have, like, any aesthetic taste except maybe in Austin, but, like, it's just all, like, glass rectangle skyscrapers, and it all looks the same, and, like, we're screwing ourselves out of, like, the most important part of, like, aesthetic human existence, is, like, creating a an aura to a place, and, like an architecture has seen this get, like, absolutely wrecked. Like, the way they make homes now is just, like, cookie cutter, boom, 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 boom. Like, 100 houses that are just all exactly the same, and that's incredibly destructive to, like. There's something about the cookie cutter aspect of doing things that absolutely obliterates any, like, beauty, and it just turns it into, like, a boring waste of space. Like, if you want to just, like, build as many houses as possible, just build a vertical tower block and, like, cram a bunch of people in it. I mean, that's what they do in, like, in Europe. A lot of cases, they're like, that's a Soviet way of thinking, is just, like, build a massive apartment block, and here it's kind of done with, like, 4-bedroom house, or, like, a 3-bedroom house, and it's just, like, all the way down. Like, our neighborhood is built in the 70s, and it's, like, a pretty well-to-do neighborhood, like, very nice, and all the houses are just, like, they're actual, like, what is it, they're built by, like, individual builders, so, like, each house on the block is totally different, like, structure and, like, the plot of land it's built on is totally different, and the effect that has on like the overall landscape of the neighborhood is like incredible. I mean, that's what makes this neighborhood so like high class and unique is it's like every single house is its own house, and it's all like unique, and it's all, nice pieces of property. There's some houses that are like there's no trees whatsoever, and then some where it's kind of like forested. Like our house is pretty heavy on the nature element, and like there's nothing worse in my eyes than like there's a more modern neighborhood probably built in like the 90s compared to like the 70s, and it's literally just like a straight street. Every single house, both sides of the street is exactly the same. There's like a little tiny piece of grass in the front yard, and like, the two-car garage, classic Americana house. But every single one is exactly the same, and it's just a massive, like, huge concrete sidewalk and driveway, and it's just like a concrete wasteland. And it's like here, it's like there's no sidewalk. Like it goes from dirt to like people will pave in certain places, or like, and it's all totally unique, and that does something for the aura of the neighborhood that mass manufacturing of houses absolutely destroys. And like aesthetics is so highly undervalued. Like most people will just go like, I'm guessing this is just like the real estate developers are like, all right, we got this, buy a huge like 20-acre uh strip of land, and they're like, how can we shove as many houses on it and sell them as quick as possible for the have like the most repeating sales. What's like a very nominal baseline. And sure, that's great and all. Like it gives you great returns, but it's these motherfuckers that can only think about money. And like there's no aesthetic value, there's no like this bleeds into like what happens to the people that live in that neighborhood. Like you're basically creating like a group of people that are like their environment's exactly the same, like grow up thinking the same thing, and they watch the same stuff, and they do this. It's like you're creating, this is I think the problem with like in LA they did like a cultural experiment and like completely destroyed like large amounts of uh like I don't know what you call it, like zone, like a large zone of population that gets just like sucked into the darkest, and like it becomes like a prison complex of uh people. Like they're all like that zone has its own cultural like aspect to it that's like, and it's not in a good way. Yep. Yes.
I wanted to talk to you